Modern dating can be emotionally, physically, and even financially draining for men. And a lot of guys are either giving up on dating completely or just taking long breaks between episodes of getting a date, planning that date out, and then actually executing and making that date happen. And I will say at least one of the problems is that men just have the odds stacked against us. If you look at dating in 2025 and dating as a whole really for this generation, finding people online, making connections through dating apps or even just social media, that is the normal now. We're not meeting people face to face, starting connections that way. We're starting connections over a DM usually. And when you look at dating apps, women have unlimited options. It's like hopping on Amazon and just picking the guy that you want. And I'm not saying that all women have essentially unlimited options to long-term partners that could lead into like a marriage, for example. But there will be a lot more options for women to have men essentially entertain them, where men, we don't really get that same kind of selection or variety, I guess you could call it. Unless if you're in the top 1% of men in terms of like looks, personality that you can display through a dating profile, maybe even flaunt some money, right? Just something that stands out to women. The rest of us, like 99% of the guys that are just average looking, under 6 foot, we're competing with each other and we're logging on to these apps every single day, and it feels like a casino to us, right? I feel like there's a mentality where it's like if you keep logging onto these apps every day, you might get lucky or you might hit it at a busy time where you have like a free boost, all these like gamification, all this like gimmick stuff that these apps throw your way, right? And then of course you have like the paid membership and like the paid aspects to these apps. You could sign up for like Hinge Plus or whatever it's called or Bumble Plus. You could pay for the boosts. And at the end of the day, if you're paying for these apps, I feel like, at least me personally, these apps would never want you to find somebody. You're a paying customer. I feel like the majority of people that are using like Hinge, Bumble, Tinder, they're using it in like the free way. They're not throwing extra money, but you will see those posts like on Reddit where people are contemplating it, like trying to sign up for a subscription. And I'm just like, man, you're never going to find somebody because the app doesn't want you to leave. They want you to keep paying. And I do dabble between Bumble and Hinge every now and then. And I will say, at least like in my city, Hinge is pretty decent when it comes to the actual like selection of women and what these women have, at least like intention wise. It feels like it just communicates more clear like what people are looking for on Hinge, which I appreciate. But definitely, if you could find somebody without dating apps, it's so much better to find start a relationship obviously organically. But, that's what it is in 2025. Everybody's meeting each other online and we're all busy just scrolling. But for the average guy, when you do finally start landing some matches on dating apps, it really feels like you need to like work and put in effort to get a woman's respect, right? You don't really feel valued from the start because she probably has options. She's probably talking to other people. So it's like you really need to earn it. And this leads to a lot of rejection, which rejection, it can be good or bad. But of course, it's always mentally exhausting being rejected. And especially if you're rejected for like unknown reasons, or like even worse, when it's just like radio silence, when they just ghost you, you'll ask them a question, like the conversation's flowing and she just stops responding. Or someone else better comes along and, she just tells you that to your face. She's like, hey, I'm talking to somebody else that I want to pursue. And of course, as a guy, I feel like you want to compare, you want to figure out how do you improve your game? What did he do better than you? And that's like a whole nother thing. When you start comparing yourself to other people on dating apps or comparing yourself to other people on like social media, how they're doing so well, let's say in the dating scene, I've seen a lot of like short form videos, like TikToks of guys scrolling through their Hinge, and there's like hundreds and hundreds of matches. And that's not the normal experience, right? That's like the top 1% of guys. He's making a, TikTok video to, get some views, or I don't know how it's going, if it's like bot accounts or what. But the average guy does not have, hundreds and hundreds of women just in his Hinge inbox, right? So you're comparing yourself to like other men, like through social media. You're comparing yourself to like the dudes that are using this app. And then of course, like women, they're talking to like their girlfriends, and some of their friends probably are in relationships. They have like boyfriends. So they're getting feedback too of like what their men are providing them. So she's going to want that as well and set some sort of like expectation for herself. And since women, have access to a lot of men, she can literally just like cherry pick which one's going to give her that attention or give her that like characteristic that she's looking for. And, a lot of the times, women don't communicate exactly what they want all the way up front. You kind of have to like show it. And, she doesn't want to just tell you outright. You really need to like prove it to her in a way. So that's why it makes you feel like you really need to earn and put in effort to keep her attention. And I feel like this is where a lot of guys struggle too, maintaining relationships. Like when you're in the early stages of dating, if you have, let's say, 1 to 2 people that you can see yourself long term with, when you're in the early stages of just like planning dates, figuring out what she's into so that way you can plan dates around that, you're probably paying for dates, maybe you're picking her up. If you're in that range of like the first 5 to 10 dates, you're putting in all of this effort. And if you just get rejected or, she ghosts you or whatever, and you spent all of this effort, it's soul crushing. You feel disposable when that happens. And ultimately, this kind of goes back to like a feeling of loneliness that I feel like a lot of men have. A lot of men, like we hold up feelings inside, and, loneliness in 2025, I feel like among men, that's like a whole nother topic in itself. But when something like that happens, being rejected after putting in so much effort, after like 5 to 10 dates, you just go into like a whole different like mood or a whole different mode where you want to take like a break from dating, hit the gym or whatever. A lot of guys, I feel like we don't really go to therapy, or at least like therapy's not as, communicated. I feel like, among like women, I know women talk about therapy a lot, especially like on their Hinge profile. Usually I feel like that's a lot of green flags that they look for, is that if you're open to going to therapy, for example. But it all feels like wasted effort. You could literally be trying your best, but at the end of the day, you still got rejected. It feels like trying your best and being your best, it's not enough. And we're in the brain rot era, so I feel like people are so distracted with infinite scrolling. Women have options, and the second they feel inconvenienced or they feel like they could do better, they're just going to scroll on to the next person. And building relationships, it takes time. People, I feel like, don't have the attention spans anymore, right? Our attention spans are so short. People aren't patient enough to actually like see a relationship through and like make all the decisions. The second they feel like they can do better, or the second they feel like they just want to move on, like they'll instantly do it. Like they won't even think about it. No hesitation. And not even to mention hookup culture in this generation. Like that's crazy how normal that became. Men don't want women with high body counts, right? If you're looking for a wife, a long-term partner, you don't want them to have a crazy high body count. It's the same reason why men in their 20s, they don't prefer women to have kids from like other relationships. I've seen my fair share of like early 20-year-olds, 21, 22, 23-year-old women on these apps. They already have kids. And I'm sure some of them probably were in like a long-term relationship before that. Maybe they lived a whole life already in their early 20s where they got married, had kids, and got divorced. But a lot of women too, I feel like they participate in hookup culture and they face some of the consequences. Sometimes that happens. It's hard to date as a single mom. And I feel like there is a rise in a lot of women trying to be a traditional wife these days. I feel like being a trad wife, that is on the come up. It's kind of like a J. Cole song where, you don't want to save them, but they expect you to start providing for them, allow them to be like a stay-at-home mom. And I've even had experiences where I had like one woman try to gaslight me. She had one kid that she didn't tell me about later on into our conversation when I already asked her out on like a date. And she was telling me that I needed to pay for her childcare so we could go on a date. But of course, once I found out that she had a kid, my intentions with her changed. She should have told me about that up front. I would have just unmatched with her. But she was saying stuff like if I didn't pay for her childcare so that she could go on a date with me, that means I wasn't serious about her. And any man that was serious about pursuing her, they would hire a babysitter for her. And, it's like, why am I already paying for somebody else's kid to get babysat just so I could take you out and spend more money on you? It was an insane experience, but I just ended up unmatching with her anyway. And there's a lot of women with high expectations. They expect you to give them everything, give them the world, right? If the man is unwilling to listen to everything that she has to say, you're unworthy of her. You're going to get called toxic, you're controlling, you're not confident, and every other thing that you can think of to spin it back where it's your fault. This makes men with standards look bad. Like, women can have standards, but men can't. You'll get called controlling if you tell your girlfriend not to go out to the bar every single night because you don't want her to get hit on, right? Being at a bar, like, it's never a good time. But as a high value man, what can you do? You need to focus on yourself, hit the gym, get in shape, get educated, get the money up, learn some new skills, and really just be your best self. And I know I said being your best self might not be good enough for some women, but these women are not for you. These women will not give you respect, they won't value you. Have validation in yourself. Be literally the best version that you can possibly be. Don't try to seek validation from others. And also, don't chase women. If you're in your 20s, that's high school stuff if you're trying to chase after women. If she's playing hard to get, she's not into you. She's not worth it. This will hurt your self-esteem. When you chase women that don't care about you, you'll end up just getting rejected anyway if she's playing hard to get. And if you can, try to make an effort to meet women naturally. The saying of closed mouths don't get fed, that's true. Not the stereotypical, like, meet a woman at a coffee shop or at a bookstore or at a bar. Definitely the bar is like the worst place to go. But, don't walk into a bookstore just, looking all over the place to see like who's single and trying to like strike up a conversation with like every single woman in there. That's not natural either. But if you can meet people naturally through like work, through like friends, or even like the commute on the way to work, if you take like a bus or a train or some sort of like public transit, that's an opportunity right there. Or if you got hobbies, like if you're into the gym, if you're doing run clubs, or you're like traveling, meet people through those kind of hobbies. And I guess if all else fails, really the passport bro movement became a thing. A lot of guys I feel like are giving up dating American women. You could easily just hop on a flight, grab your passport, and try to start dating internationally. But whichever you do, all the best. Go out there and get it.